Hello everyone, I am Mr. Nabarun, Senior Subject Master of Economics in Zenpo School, and you are watching my channel THINKONOMICS-Study with Nabarun. Today, in my lesson, I will try to explain the consumer's equilibrium through indifference curve approach. What is the main aim of the consumer? The main aim of the consumer is to maximize his utility while consuming too good given the price of the commodities and given the budget line. Here we are assuming that the consumer is consuming only two goods, and we are also assuming that whatever the consumer is earning, he is spending all his income on purchasing these commodities. There is no savings and there is no taking of loans. So my dear boys and girls, consumer's equilibrium, it implies the maximum level of utility which the consumer will try to get given his budget line. So we can say that the consumer's equilibrium depends on two things. One is the indifference curve, the other one is budget line. Because the indifference curve shows the various combinations of two goods which the consumer can consume, and it gives the equal level of utility to the consumer. I repeat, indifference curve shows the various combinations of two goods which gives equal level of utility to the consumer. So, taking commodity on the y-axis and the commodity X on the x-axis, indifference curve is negatively slope. This we have already studied in the properties of the indifference curve. That is, the slope of the indifference curve, which is negatively slope, is nothing but it implies the marginal rate of substitution between the two commodities. Also, we have studied in the indifference curve that higher level of indifference curve, that is, suppose for example IC1 which lies above IC0. This IC1 gives a higher level of utility as compared to IC0. This is the second property of indifference curve. Also, we have studied that the indifference curve is convex to the origin. These are the three properties of indifference curve already we have studied. My boys and girls, what I am saying to you that the consumer's equilibrium depends on two things. One is indifference curve, the other one is budget line. So I have given you the definition of indifference curve. What are the properties of indifference curve? This also we have discussed. So the main aim of the consumer is to maximize his utility. So he will try to go to the higher level of indifference curve given his budget line. So what is budget line now? We have to know what is budget line, or I think most of you know what is budget line. Then also, budget line shows the various combinations of two goods which can be consumed by the consumer given the prices of the commodity and the income of the consumer. So the various combinations of commodities which can be consumed by the consumer given the prices of the commodity and the income. Suppose for example, if I say that the income of the consumer is M, capital M, alright, and the price of the commodity X is Px and the price of the commodity Y is Py. And we are also assuming that whatever the consumer is earning, he is spending all his income on the commodity X and commodity Y. So what will be the budget line? Budget line will be A is equal equal to Px multiply x plus Py multiply y. Px multiply x, this implies the total expenditure of the consumer on the commodity x. Py, it indicates the total expenditure of the consumer on the commodity y. So that his total income is A. So the budget equation will be A is equal to Px multiply x plus of Py multiply of. What is the slope of the budget line? The slope of the budget line is the ratio of the price of x by the price of y. This also we have studied. So now, what is the aim of the consumer? If the consumer knows his budget line, if the consumer knows the indifference curve, consumer will try to reach the maximum level of indifference curve given his budget line. Let us come to this figure. Suppose, for example, the budget line of the consumer is A, B. And there are three indifference curves. IC0, IC1 and IC2. What will be the aim of the consumer? To reach the maximum level of indifference. Suppose take the example IC2. Consumer will try to reach the indifference curve IC2 because it will give the highest level of the utility. But in this case, the consumer will not be able to reach indifference curve because of the budget constraint AB. We know, boys and girls, that the consumer will not be able to purchase any combinations of goods and commodities which lies outside the budget line. This IC2, the indifference curve IC2, as it lies outside the budget line AB, these cannot be achieved. What about the indifference curve IC2? Now see the indifference curve IC1, the indifference curve IC1, it lies within the budget line. But the consumer will not consume at the point T on the indifference curve IC1 because he is not getting the best of utility or the maximum utility. He will try to move up. So neither IC2 can be achieved, nor the consumer will consume the good on the indifference curve IC1. What about the indifference curve IC0? We can see that the indifference curve IC0 is touching the budget line at the point E. Or in the other way, we can say that the budget line AB is tangent to the indifference curve IC0 at the point E. Yes, my dear students, this is a maximum level of utility which the consumer can get given the budget line AB. So, the first order condition or the necessary conditions for the consumer's equilibrium is that the slope of the indifference curve must be equal to the slope of the budget line. What is the slope of the indifference curve? The slope of the indifference curve is marginal rate of substitution between the commodities. So slope of the indifference curve MRS XY. What is the slope of the budget line? The slope of the budget line already we have explained is equal to the ratio of the price of the commodity X by the price of the commodity Y. So the necessary conditions for the consumer's equilibrium is the slope of the indifference curve is equal to the slope of the budget line. That is, the marginal rate of substitution between X and Y will be equal to Px by Py. This is a necessary condition. But this is not the sufficient condition. The sufficient conditions for the consumer's equilibrium by the indifference curve approach is that the indifference curve must be an indifference curve must be convex to the origin, This is the sufficient condition. Or the second order conditions for the consumer's equilibrium. So, my dear boys and girls, this consumer's equilibrium through the indifference curve approach is one of the important topic for your ICSE, for your ISC, for your CBSE, and for any type of competitive exam. That is the consumer's equilibrium through the indifference curve approach. So, what are the two conditions we got? The two conditions for the consumer's equilibrium are: number one, the slope of the indifference curve must be equal to the slope of the budget line. That is, the marginal rate of substitution between x and y will be equal to the ratio of the price of x by the price of y. This is the necessary conditions or the first order condition. Then, the second order condition or the sufficient condition for the consumer's equilibrium is that indifference curve must be convex to the origin. So, my dear boys and girls, whenever this consumer's equilibrium are there, we will start with the indifference curve, the properties of indifference curve, then we'll come to the budget line, the slope of the budget line, and what the consumers will try to do. Consumers will try to reach the maximum level of utility, that is the maximum or the higher level of the indifference curve given his budget line. Anything within the budget line is achievable, but the consumer will not go for it because it gives him the lesser level of utility. Anything outside the budget line cannot be achieved because his money income does not permit. So the only thing which remains is that the indifference curve must be tangent, indifference curve must touch the budget line, or the budget line must be tangent to the indifference curve. This is how we will move for the equilibrium of the consumers by the indifference curve. Thank you very much, boys and girls, for being with us. If you like the way of teaching my channel, then please do watch, please do subscribe, and please do share with your friends. Thank you very much for being with us. Namaste and Jai Hind.